Hi, everyone. It's Shay Seeking, and this is not your mama's Bible study. Okay? So, what we do here on this channel and what I do on my uh, platforms, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube, is just put out alternative information that has not been pushed mainstream when it comes to his story. I like to put books of antiquity that I find online, links to certain things, other inspirational videos, and content of other soul siblings that are awake, or going through an awakening of some sort, that are forever looking for something to uh, uh, not looking for, but seeing things that are happening in this world today. And we are bringing, I like to say that these are my autochthons, oracles, and sages. And we're here for a reason. We're here to do a job, the work of the true source that we are connected to or that is within. Okay. So again, I just want to give a disclaimer for the newbies that I am not religious. I do not attend a church, but I do love to read my Bible because for some reason I see something there, along with many other people have come forward with this information. But like I always tell you, if it does not fit the narrative, it will not be placed in front of you. So when with that being said, everybody needs to question everything. Question everything. You think you know, but you have no idea. Until you start questioning everything, you have no idea. Okay? A lot of people might think that I fear monger or I'm blaspheming. That's fine because I am one that has already, and I know that I'm going to get a lot of drama when I start placing this stuff out in the public, but I've already took a long time to prepare. Okay? I feel like I've been, like I said, in some kind of spiritual cocoon, and I've been sheltered and I've been nourished with information in all types of different outlooks that are important for people to, see. Now, you either take it into consideration and do your own research or not. That's fine. But I am just a seer. I'm someone that seeks and I see. So that's why my name is Shay Seeking on most platforms except for YouTube. Okay. So anyhow, I'm not ever trying to toot my own horn. I'm not ever trying to say that I have the answers. And I'm not ever trying to tell you that I am here to indoctrinate you. I always say that I'm not here to tell you what it is, what it ain't. I'm just telling you what it looks like to me. And I'm looking to connect with other brothers and sisters, no matter what your skin type is or what you look like, that are on the same mission, and that is exposing all of the mm, or exposing the unseen hand that has been misleading humanity as a whole, okay, and especially oppressing and subduing people of color around the globe. Oh well, wait a minute. I don't believe in the globe theory. So this plane, okay. So on that note, we were having a conversation with a couple of people on Facebook today, and it's because I had put up this here meme. Um, I saw it on somebody's page, and I decided to share it, not knowing that it was going to, uh, not knowing that it was going to lead me into looking at something else. Um, I'm doing some kind of a uh, unearthed, unchained edition of um, mm, decoding the Bible, and there's no real structure to it or anything. It's just kind of like how I do things, just on the whim, on a spiritual kind of thing. And like I said, I'm not a scholar. I would never want to be. anyone that claims to be able to teach someone something. And this is why, like I said, I'm just bringing the things forth. I might be here one day in Genesis and I might go all the way into Numbers the next day. But again, the only thing I'm here to do is to make people think and to let you know, if you are on that level where you're thinking in this way, it's okay to do so, and probably join with other people that are doing this, because I believe that this is something that needs to happen um, with many of us before we can move on to the next level of whatever we're about to go into. So, I'm deep on all different types of uh, levels, and I just have a lot going on. Okay, so it's gonna be a bumpy ride, but I hope that you guys stick with me. So, on that note, we were talking about the Tower of Babel. Okay, and as you can see, it says God stopped this, but not this, and it caused a couple people to be in their feelings, and that's one thing that we don't do here. And I'm not going to do it on my Facebook page, and I'm not going to do it on Instagram. Okay. Like I said, I've already gone through that whole spiritual metamorphosis, and I'm out on the other side, and there's no fear mongering here, because I don't fear anything that's going to be coming or anything that I'm even putting forward. Okay. So let's just get that straight right now. Conspiracy, a lot of people want to say conspiracy, but conspiracy to me is the new truth. It is only information that has not been brought mainstream because it does not fit the narrative of the owners of this place, which have complete control over everything pretty much that you do on a daily basis, and me. So, on that note, um, I think that there's a lot of exposure. There are people saying, oh, well, you guys don't have anything else left to talk. I see people don't have nothing else to talk about. So they're posting memes like this. But to me, this is just something that's put up there. Nobody may not ever like any of my content. That's not why I do it. And like I always say, I would have stopped a long time ago if it was. But one person might look at this and it might jog something in their memory. It might take them to a place they needed to go in order to get a conclusion, or to dig a little bit deeper in their awakening, right? So this is why I do these things. A million people might see it, and it's just one person that's able to really see something a little further by this meme. Okay, this is why I put things out there. It's not for everybody. This movement ain't for everybody. It's not. This mindset ain't for everybody. So again, I'm putting myself out on the line. I am not blocking anyone from my pages anymore. So if you see something and I usually put some kind of disclaimer above the videos for people not to watch if this ain't what you're doing. But again, I'm pretty sure I'm going to look like a Looney Tune to a lot of my friends and family members. Um, you know, I miss them dearly because like I said, I was going through that whole change, and you know, yeah. And I feel like I withdrew from everything. I had to go. I was at a place where I had to go. I had to go within, and I had to go there. I had to be there. I had to be where I'm okay with being with myself. I love being with myself today. You know what I'm saying? The only thing with me not being around other people is the fact that I feel like other people might think that I don't value their friendship or their love or their whatnot, because I don't reach out anymore, or because I keep to myself. That's the only thing that's hurtful about going through what I've been going through um, over the years. So again, so I don't keep rambling. We're just going to go back into this. I already did this video 3 times and something happened. So I'm just going to go ahead and play a small clip for you guys. And then after I play that clip, we're going to go right on into Genesis 11 and see what we can find out about this. Because again, I really don't know much. I'm not claiming to know much about anything ever, It just struck me as, wow, yeah. And when I saw that meme, it wasn't even necessarily the fact that the Tower of Babel or Babel and the spaceships, because my stance on going to space is I don't believe that it happened the way, just like everything else. I don't think it happened the way that they tell us it did. I don't even think that they went, in my opinion. That's just my opinion, okay? And then when it comes to the Tower of Babel, I think that it did actually happen. But I think that we're talking about something on a more symbolic level, okay? And I think that's another part of that language. Y'all got to try to follow me here. I think that's another part of that language barrier that we're talking about, okay? Um, Secret handshakes, uh, secret codes, certain outfits, certain stances, holding your hands in a certain gestures when you're speaking to people, um, other things, a lot of things that I think that we look at this whole hidden or occult thing when it comes to these celebrities, um, dressing up as mimicking other actresses and actors that have come and gone, especially when it comes to these women of Hollywood. Okay. Um, if you've been watching the channel, you know why I broke the word up like that. Um, but again, I think that yeah, we're talking about something else basically. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and dig a little bit deeper, taking a break from Genesis in the beginning right now, and we're gonna just go into this and see what we can find out. I don't have anything organized, I don't have anything ready here to share with you guys, but I've been talking long enough about not the subject that we're here to talk about, so let's just go ahead and get into it. I'm going to go ahead and play this clip for you guys and then show you my thinking, because I figured, okay, if I'm going to go look into this, let me go ahead and look at just pick any random video, and just see what comes up or whatever, okay? Because sometimes it's best for me to do that, okay?
The Tower of Babel, one of the Bible's most incredible stories.
The Babylonians build this massive tower, a temple. It reaches the heavens.
Okay, so this guy just said that it reaches the heavens. In a minute, they're going to say that they tried to. And then, the story that we've been taught, or the perception that was given to me over the years, is that they tried to build this, but he knocked it down at some point before it got there. Okay. So,
is to be humankind's greatest achievement.
Again, the fact that he's saying that this can be humankind's greatest achievement. Well, anything that is humankind reminds me of the fact that we have something that might be kind of like a human, or mankind. What was man? And then what is kind of like a man? You know what I'm saying? Because like I told you before, in Genesis, that whole first and second chapter, if not even more, is talking about, even when we're talking about the fowl of the air and the beast, that's symbolic for a certain group of people or something, a bloodline, a family line. We're looking more at the coat of arms. We pulled them up in the other video. That include beasts of fields, and they also include fowl of the air. When we look at the whole thing of the seeding, CEDE, of the Americas, okay? And in this book, we're talking about seeds, SEED. So we know in the English language, there's so many different definitions for words that you really have to be paying attention and breaking things down in order to see what we're actually really talking about. And then you also have your concordance and all these other things. These definitions, it's like endless or whatever. Okay? So you really got to be following this thing and really paying attention. It's not something that you can just gloss over and say that you've read the book. No, you have to tear this book apart, piece by piece, word by word, verse by verse, so on. Okay? So, okay, again. So, when we're talking about mankind, I'm thinking kind of like a man or a native, someone who sprung from, or an indigenous person is also someone who sprung from the earth. And the earth, land, soil, ground, we know from looking at etymology, looking at different definitions, and also looking at the concordance, that those terms can also be used to be talking about or describe people or inhabitants. Okay, so let's go ahead and finish watching.
It
can sort of roughly reconstruct what it looked like. It's something that would be massive.
But God stops Babel's tower being built.
God decides he will smite us before we can really get up to what we were going to do.
God creates language to disrupt humankind.
Okay. So God chose to smite them before they can get there, and he decided to scramble the language. Now, there's a couple of things. This is very random, guys. It is very random. It is the first thing that is just coming to my mind, okay? The fact that we're talking about God when I'm doing this whole thing from Genesis is to kind of give you a basis on how to look at the book and question everything as you go through it all the way through, okay? So in my eyes, this God moves pretty much like the government in my eyes, okay? So I tend to use the term Godverment, okay? So I'm thinking that if we're thinking that this God had something to do with the creating a man to preside, which this Bible says clearly, and to rule over, and he set him in the east of the garden. If we look at North America, knowing that the Americas is bigger than just North America, but just for instance, this is what we're talking about. Let's just say North America was an Eden, and this Lord God created a man, and he planted him in the garden that he had made in the east of, in the east of the garden, okay? And I always tell you guys, when I'm looking at that, I'm still looking at the fact that Nat Turner was killed in Jerusalem, Virginia, which is now called Cortland, Virginia. I don't see why people don't put these things together. There's something that's brewing in me about this whole Christ or Christ consciousness and Nat Turner in Jerusalem and the way they killed him. And I'm just saying, this is all I'm saying. I haven't done a thorough thing on it yet, but I'm just saying, okay? Again, that movie was called what? The Birth of a Nation? Okay, so you have your nation, you have your Virgin Mary, when you have your Virginia and Maryland, and these are some of the oldest states, or whatever you want to call them. They've been changed to different things over the years. And then you have Washington, D.C., or your District of Columbia, which sprouts up in between those two. So I just went off track with that to kind of give you guys how I'm just kind of talking to you around what we're trying to show here a little bit. But since we know this now, when I'm thinking that God didn't want somebody to get to his if they all spoke one language at first, okay? Could you imagine if we're in the Americas and people were speaking pretty much the same language, and then a whole bunch of foreigners and a whole bunch of aliens and a whole bunch of other people came here? You know, what is it? Was the soil actually trying to pull in its seed that sprung from the soil in order to come together to go against this? Oh, you know what? And it's bringing me to, it's bringing me back over to the northeast where Pontiac, I think. I was just about to go in on him. And see, this is what I'm saying. It's just too much for me to handle. So I'm looking for a team. You know, I think it was Pontiac that tried to go against the government or somebody at the last moment, and he tried to rally together and get the other tribes involved. And I was talking about this with another storyline, that it just seemed like at some point in time people did want to go together and do something, but it was too late, basically. Okay. And I think around that time, that's when the military was coming in hand or being established. So again, if he tried at that point in time, the reason why he failed this time when he didn't normally fail even on his own, now he had people to back him and other tribes that back him, and he failed is probably because it was too late. That might, that force, that establishment, that firmament was already here. Okay, so when I'm thinking about this again, I know it might sound like rambling to some people, but I'm dropping a couple things here. Okay, when it comes to mm, mixing up these languages, I'm just thinking. I don't understand why and how people can go past and through these words and not see some of the stuff that some people that are reading it see. I'm not the only one. There's nothing special about me at all. The only thing about me is that I've turned everything off. I've shut everything down that has to do with this infrastructure. Everything down. None of this shit matter to me anymore. Doesn't. So, um, fear is not a thing for me anymore. I went through a time of that. Not anymore. So, I just think that this has something to do with something like that. Even when it comes to Hmm. learning that the Prince Hall Freemasonry was first started by, it was called the African Hall or something. And I think that was maybe one of the first temples or the first temples that was of people of color. But I know that at some point in time, I think I read where um, the temples were called African something halls before they were called lodges or whatever they call them now. Okay. So it just kind of sounds like, what happened to that? Did they just, are they still standing and they just disappeared in the background? Or is this something that was shut down? Again, I'm not saying that that's what this is talking about. I'm just kind of letting out things that are on my mind as I go through and read this. But just to make a long story short, I think that we're actually talking about the flooding of the nations to stop certain people, maybe the origines, from coming up against what had taken place or the firmament that was built. Okay, and they panicked because they seen what was going on, and this might be when they say, hey, we need to do our own thing. And if you don't even symbolically, or just when we're thinking about this spiritually, could you even imagine how the same thing happened in Oklahoma? What happened? They went, they had these people that already moved you around back and forth. You get over here in Oklahoma or wherever the hell it was, and then they end up making up a story about somebody doing something to someone. Same thing that they do today, y'all. It's the same thing that they do today with these shootings and some of these false flags and some of these staged events, crisis actors. Some of this stuff is actually still occurring. Okay, because the same people that pull strings are the same people that own the networks that you're watching, the stations that you're watching, the newspapers. Fair is nothing is fair game anymore. Everything has been turned over to the people that want to control you and have you in a mental and physical state of slavery, modern day slavery. These are your owners, okay? And this is why they can do certain things to certain people and not get in trouble. They're not getting in trouble, A, either because it didn't happen, or B, because you are just a piece of property that somebody lied to you by using different terms and using legalese behind your back in order to make you think that you're free and you're a person, and you're really not. You're just still a slave, and you also belong to someone. You're a piece of property, right? So again, same thing. What happened? The government or whoever else was included, because it had to be some people higher up, because they had airplanes now that you're finding out were dropping bombs over there too. So somebody had to be in control in order to put us into this. In the South, different places around this nation, right after, they were surprised to see how fast the so-called blacks or Negroes or colored folks was flourishing, and they did not like that. So they created ways in order to make us want to, uh, make us want to, goodness, what am I saying? There have been laws set in place where the marrying of two races couldn't happen, but then they made us go ahead and say, oh, this is unfair with that Loving case. I'm pretty sure that has something to do with their secret. What I'm saying is, okay, you can do whatever you want to do. Today, I don't even care. This is not what I'm saying. I'm just trying to say, I'm not the one that made the laws in the first place. I'm just bringing up the fact that they were there. Okay, and that this system uses reverse psychology in order for us to fight for things that later on to do things to make us fight for things that they want us to kind of agree on so that they will be able to do something else along with that. Okay, so now we're staging shootings. Oh, look what happened. They're shooting kids at schools. There's shootings at gay bars. There's shootings here. So they're pulling on your street. Then the very next day, they're like, oh, we need to remove the guns. The guns have to go. And you're sitting there like, yeah, maybe they do have to go. And then you know what's going to happen? One day it's going to happen. Something's going to happen where a switch is going to be flipped and you're going to be asking for something that you never should be asking for. So when they asked us to, when we went to the whole thing of integrating, that's what I was looking for. They give you these sob stories in order to make you think, oh, it was sad that black people. No, but those people back then didn't want to. Why I'm going to be your slave all this time? Want to come back underneath your. No, they didn't want to integrate. That's why they stayed and made their own cab companies, bus companies, schools, hospitals. All this stuff was going on. It wasn't until they got in your feelings and used media and certain things that they own and have control over in order to get you to have a certain perception of something or change your mind about something in order for you to then agree and fight for it. You fighting for gay rights? Anybody that does whatever they do behind closed doors. I already said it. But my thing is, it's not about the gay rights. They're just using that group of people to push another agenda that they have in mind. And that is this androgynous transsexual thing. And we're sitting around here thinking it's something new when it's been already installed in the fabrics of our society from the beginning. You just can't see. You just can't see. You think people is crazy because they're bringing up all these things and you don't understand where it's coming from. What is it? Well, you know what? They know you don't have time. They know you don't have time to even check and see if anything, even if you want to believe one thing that I'm telling you. Why would I come up and just make all this stuff up? I'm simply not crazy. Okay. I do a damn good job of raising my daughters. That is my job. Okay. I feel like I'm pretty good with people know me. They know I'm not crazy. I've known certain people for my whole life. I have not really changed that much. Okay, maybe I've come out of my shell a little bit. Because I used to be somebody that liked to go places like parties, but I've always kind of had a fear of being around people. But again, you know why I like to go? In a creepy, I mean, not a creep way, but in a kind of freaky kind of way, is I like to just be around people. I like to obs- um, observe situations and people. And, I've always just been that person that's quiet when we at a party or a get together and everybody talking, unless I feel comfortable and it's a fun setting and I can be like jokingly or something. But, when we were at just chilling and kicking it, I was the one that was just sitting there chilling. I enjoyed myself too, and I did all the things that everybody else did there. Okay, I'm not trying to say I was sitting there being an angel or anything, but I'm just saying that on another note, when people were in conversation and stuff, I was kind of just observing. And sometimes, to be honest with you, why I'm probably talking so damn much now is because I would be quiet. And I would have something to say, but I didn't want to say it because usually when I would say something, people would be like, "No, I don't see that. I don't understand." And I'm like, "You see what I'm saying? Oh, yeah, okay, okay." I mean, I don't know. I don't see it like that. So it kind of, I just would feel like I don't want to, or I didn't want to say anything wrong or whatever. So I know we're getting way off the subject right now, but what I'm basically just trying to say is I think that we're talking about something that has something to do with nation building that somebody didn't want to happen. Okay. And I was just pointing out a couple of times in history where we can see this happens. And then I was pointing out also a couple ways how they deceive us into asking for something that they want us to do. Same way the president comes around and wants to talk to and about so-called black people for some reason. They all do it at some point in time because they want you to think that they need your vote, but they really don't. They don't need any of our votes. They don't even matter. But you won't know that again because you don't want to do the research, or you may not have time to do the research, or you just want to talk about people that do the research and talk about how they're wrong because you're going off of the mainstream sheeple fed indoctrinated way of looking at things and seeing things. Okay? So why don't anybody that wants to challenge somebody that sounds like they're speaking of this thing and they've dedicated their life to bringing forth this information, instead of talking about those people, do the research on your own. See where it resides or with you. See how you interpret the word. Okay? So that went way left, but we're going to get back on track right now.
They would all speak different languages and be unable to comprehend each other.
And again, if I was building something, like I think I might have used this in the video earlier. Let's say a puppy or a person fell in a well. Okay? And there's people, you come out and you come around the corner and you see this struggle going on at this well okay? And you see people trying to get a rope and they're screaming down this thing and somebody's screaming from up under it and you're like, oh my goodness, what's going on? And it looked like they might need a hand, right? What if they're all speaking Spanish and you speak English? Okay? Would that matter if somebody's life was on the line in this well and they just needed somebody else to grab the cord from the back? Are you going to stop and try to communicate with the people? Or will you just automatically kind of just know that you probably should maybe just grab this cord and start pulling it with everybody, or this rope? This is what I'm saying. So if you really flip that around in your head a couple times instead of just reading it on the surface, what sense do that make? If we just standing here and just like they showed in the little narrative, see, because they like to fill your mind with with a pre something vision of what they want. Just like in this Bible sometimes when they put them pictures in there. You didn't read it, but just in case you veered off and you thinking that we might be talking about real Negroes in slavery, or we might be talking about the Slavic people that was brought over here. Let me just give you a picture of what we think we want you to look like, what it's looking like. Do you get what I'm saying? So whenever you think about the Tower of Babel, what are you thinking about? This building that's broken up into pieces. You can't even take the time to even process, or there basically is programming, okay? It's basically programming. So to not even give you a chance to even think of what you want to interpret from reading the story yourself. Okay? So we wouldn't have needed a language, okay? There's not a language that we need to in order for people to express the disgust that they have for certain people that are in the White House. You don't need it. So again, that just still doesn't make any sense to me. Okay?
For many scholars, the Tower of Babel is just a tall story.
Oh, hold on.
Are
Sorry.
being built.
God decides he will smite us before we can really get up to what we were going to do.
God creates language to disrupt humankind. They would all speak different languages and be unable to comprehend each other.
That's what it was. Okay. So the whole thing of different languages so that they would not be able to comprehend each other. I'm thinking whatever we're talking about, again, the signs and symbols that run the world. I keep telling you guys. What if we're talking about these hand gestures that people use when they're doing videos, commercial or promotional videos, and it seems like they're holding their hand up in a triangle or downward in a triangle? What about the people, the news anchors do it all the time? It's not that what you're doing, but what the hell is that? If I was going to, let's see. Okay. If I was going to a certain neighborhood, let's just use this as a reference, okay? If I was going to a certain neighborhood, or if I was about to buy a house in a certain neighborhood, and every time I came through the neighborhood, when somebody came up to greet me, they did something weird with their hands, like hold them together in an upside down triangle, okay? And then they start talking to me and then they move it. And then the next time I come around, this other dude named Fred comes over and he's doing the same thing. He's on the welcoming committee and he comes up to me and he's talking. But at some point in time, he keeps putting his hands together like this. I'm about to be like, what the hell is all these people doing this for? So when I'm looking at TV and I'm watching this, I'll just tell you a couple of things that I'm wondering. Why do these women in Hollywood have such long, sometimes wide necks? Why do they have Adam's apples, most of them? In some point in time in their career, you can catch a picture or something with their Adam's apple. Why is it that the anatomy of these women on TV is so different than the ones that I'm going to school with and seeing at the grocery store? Why is it that some of these men look so feminine by the time they get older, and some of them look like they are the ones that been having the babies instead of their wives, that sometimes when they're having their first child and they go on TV, their stomach squished down like a pancake when they sit down, and people actually, and then when they actually go have the baby, they shut down the hospital, the whole entire floor of the hospital, so that this person can have their baby, and people still think this person had a baby. Oh, but wait a minute. Now the person says, well, it might have been some things going on, so I want to have a surrogate now. Well, bitch, you had a surrogate probably all the times, because you definitely didn't have the first baby when we seen your stomach go flat like a disc on TV. And then with the other one that have all these so-called children. And but now, when people are really bringing out this whole androgynous transgender thing, now all of a sudden you're just going to go ahead and admit that you're going to go ahead and get a surrogate. Okay, why do these women act like this? Real women don't act like this. But you know what? Why do we even go ahead and try to why do we worship these people like this? Why do we believe everything? Why do they use these same people in commercials in order to, they take them out of movies and put them in commercials and stuff in order to do these endorsements to get you to purchase things? Why do these same people go and do stuff at the White House? Why they be flying around like Rihanna going to France and spending time with the president? What the hell do the president of France want to do with Rihanna? What does it have to do with it? Why do these celebrities express the fact that they share a bloodline with most of the presidents or most of the other people? Like, I just want to know these things, okay? Again, why in some of these American Indian images do some people have this stance where they're sitting with their hands, a lot of cops and I won't use those words. A lot of people in forces, okay? When they take pictures, they do certain things like that. Even the people that work in the District of Columbia, they hold their hands a certain way all the time, and maybe even during a speech or something. So, I just wonder these things. These are the things that I think about. But of course, if nobody else even knows that these things were actually a thing of the past, they wouldn't even be thinking about that we're talking about this in the Bible, and they're going to think I'm a damn fool. Okay? But anyhow, we're definitely rambling some more. But again, could this language, okay, be something more?
Language to disrupt humankind.
They would all speak different languages and be unable to comprehend each other.
For many scholars, the Tower of Babel is just a tall story.
It seems to me that this is a story which is not actually about a tower at all.
It is not written in order to tell us actual history, but it is written in order to explain why things are like they are.
Okay, and again, why things are the way that they are today. Okay, so that's why I brought you through history, to show you other forms of what we could be talking about when we're talking about this tower that was built up. Okay? So we can know what's going on today. This is why, if you're not in a religion, or you've abruptly left the church, I advise you not to leave the Bible behind. Because there might be a new look, and I advise people that think that they woke to actually be woke and pick up this book, because it's going to change your whole life. It's going to speak to you. The book is it's a living book. It's going to transform and speak to you as you're reading it, okay? Not in that way, so that you can go ahead and start calling me a nut, but you know what I'm saying, okay? Maybe you'll see what I mean today, or maybe not. Okay, Because for some reason I'm off. I'm really off tonight. So let's go ahead and yeah. So we're gonna go ahead and end that. I hope that we're doing a little bit better on timing because I did go ahead and restart this. Okay. We don't want that. We don't want that. Okay. Let's see if this is the page I'm looking for. Okay. So let's go ahead and look at I hear that you want to start Genesis 11 or something in order to go ahead and get the story of Babel or whatever. So, you know, we're going to go ahead and just start at of Noah's 3 sons were Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Okay. In my eyes, Ham may be considered to be people, I don't even want to know if I want to use descent. The real people of so-called African descent. Shem may be talking about, and I think that Shem is the less spoken of, okay? But I think that he represents the, goodness. I want to say he represents the American phenotype, okay? And then I want to say Japheth may be of like Caucasian, Eurasian, Mongoloid, Russian, kind of like that, okay? Where I think that ancient Europe or Europeans and Africans, I don't know. I'm pretty sure all these nations at one point in time, oh, let me turn that off. All of these nations at one point in time, what am I trying to say? Or maybe ruled by people of a darker view from what we've been given in history, okay? But I'm not necessarily saying that's what it has to be, okay? But I'm just saying that even now, if you look at some of those places, they're not there. I want to know what, okay, so I guess we can go back really and find out what happened to the darker races that were ruling Europe at one point in time. And then, hey, what was Europe back then? America wasn't even what it is now back in the 1700s. It was cut up differently. It was run differently. So again, what was going on over there that might have been the same thing, okay? And I think that maybe something similar happened there, okay? And I think that the Quran might be, since we seem to think that for some reason the books are kind of very much similar. Even when I was trying to get into reading it, it seemed like some of the storylines were very similar. Maybe because it's just a similar story that happened, but on that side of the plane, okay? Because I really do think wholeheartedly that the Old Testament is of the old world here in America, and it might even be talking about some of the other people that broke off from here and went other places. But you know, this is why we have to dig a little bit deeper, and the reason why I do use this book as one of my main tools is because I believe that everything has been compacted into this story line, but you have to be able to see it, okay? You have to be able to see it, or else it just doesn't even matter. Okay. So let's see. So Ham is the ancestor of Canaanites, and then again, what is the Negro? Who is the real owner of the term Negro? Okay, because somebody was added to some of these terms, and some people were subtracted from them too. But I know that in one of these books, it says that Ham was the progenitor of the dark races, not the Negro. Okay. Who knows when that was added? Who thought it was okay to put that? But if it keeps going along with the storyline that we can bring back to real life that makes more sense, then hey, it's up to you to choose if this is what you want to use in your narrative or the story that you're trying to tell or bring forth. Okay. The important thing here is not for you to think what I'm thinking or me to think what you're thinking. It's in order to give people a free way of actually researching the word and questioning it without feeling like God is going to get them, without feeling like we are not already spiritual beings, like we can't use other senses and tools and things in order to get a correct outlook on something without the man telling you what it's going to be. This is the trouble that we've been in so far because we've depended on mankind to teach the original how to do things. And most likely it's a little bit of your way that they stole added to their way that's not your way and why you don't normally fit into the scenario. Okay? So again, it's not about your actual skin color. It's about who you are and what was yours and what somebody else wanted to consume or take from. Okay? You or your ancestors, and people would think, I think somebody asked me the other day, what name a reason why they would want to trick somebody out of their nationality. And I said exactly why. I mean, I can't give, I don't know which one to pick, but I would think money, land, power, and resources. Also, free services, because you would need the people of that land in order to cultivate that land, in order to bring forth anything from that land. Because mainly, really, pretty much, what fruits and stuff and vegetables, not saying that we don't have some of the stuff that they have and they have some of the stuff that we have, but how would one that doesn't grow tobacco know the ins and outs of the tobacco plant and how to cultivate it and keep it going? If you had killed all the originals and the natives and then brought Africans, why would you do that? Even if they weren't black, people say, okay, if there was already black people, why not use those black people instead of going to get more black people from Africa? Again, why use any black people if the American Indian was not black? And then if the American Indian was already here and he was already growing tobacco and corn and all this other stuff, why would you kill him? Why didn't you just turn him into the slave? And I will not have anyone tell me no foolishness as to what I can see with my eyes today. Okay? That other cultures of people don't mind doing certain kind of work. And I'm not putting anyone down. I'm just saying we have to look at this stuff because we have to look at what's common sense. We have to start using discernment. We have to start using things that we are seeing with our own eyes and not let somebody tell us that we're not seeing what we're seeing. Okay? So there's certain people that do whatever they got to do certain things like sell or panhandle or do these particular things. And there's some people that no matter what your circumstances is, your conditions is, you are not going to do it. Now, some people might think that that's a bad thing. Oh, these lazy Negroes won't do these. But I think it's not customary. A lot of things that we don't want to do, or a lot of things that we don't want to settle for, and that we would rather not, or rather even some people take free handouts from the government, because we're not bred to do these particular type of things that other people were brought in to do. Okay. And when we want to talk about even them saying some foolishness like, oh, the Indians were too strong and they were too this to be enslaved, well, that's a lie. They were too wild and crazy and they couldn't contain them. You still trying to so-called contain the American Negro today. You got them chilling over there. And not to say that they're not suffering from some of the ailments and some of the things that we're suffering from as so-called black people. But at the end of the day, You have to start comparing the two. Okay, we have to start comparing the two and calling it out for what it is. Nobody can hide behind these sugar coated ways of explaining the things that they do to people of color and people in general. Let's say people in general, especially people the darker color that you get. Okay, so if there was anybody that would have been fighting so hard and would have been ready to kill some damn body for doing these certain things, and it's so sad that these people are not looked at that same way today because we've lost something and it's time to get it back. You got to hit the ground as a whole nation in order to see what's going on, in order for us to get up and turn the shit around all the way and together. Okay? So, I don't even know where we're at, but let's just get back into what we were doing. Okay? So, from these sons, and again, a son can also be, let's just see if we can find it here. Remember how we were talking about the husbandmen, the husbandry, the wives? A marriage, we look at it as one way now. But at some point, different, okay? So let's look at this. A son, a descendant. Again, kind of remind me of how they say, oh, on the little checkbox thing on the Social Security application, African American or Black, any people that have something origins of Africa. Danish, Swedish, son. Let's see, son. A Slavic, something Russian, son. Derived noun from root. And let's not forget that some of the sons of Russia, thanks for reminding me, some of the sons of Poland, some of the sons of the Slavic people, some of the sons of the Armenians, some of the sons of these different people ended up being brought over to the America in droves. Remember that. And some of these people got into certain bloodlines and mixed with certain people in order to produce, again, sons. Okay? So it doesn't necessarily have to mean that it's your offspring child that came straight from your womb or from your person. But it can also be a uniting, okay? Sons of, people use terms now like sons of anarchy, like groups or whatever, or that's the, they're together. They're not all the sons of, but you get what I'm saying. Derived noun from root. Okay, so from root, to give birth, again. Okay. Again, birth can be something that is also, birth is something that boats do. Birthing, and that's why I like to tell you guys about maritime law and I think it's admiralty or admiral law, if I'm not mistaken. Gives birth, offspring. Okay, so something that came off of or sprung out of. Okay, son